tag the animal. Drop kick by the big guy.
Welcome back, Dorkamaniacs. Now, this is a little different video than I normally do. You won't be seeing my beautiful face. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to ask you if you could tell the difference between these versions of Dragon Quest VII on PlayStation 1. Now, what I mean by different versions is there can be small variants in releases in any region. Now, with this particular release, there's a lot more to it than it seems, and there's a lot more revisions than you would see elsewhere. I guess the idea is that in Japan they perfect the release as best as they could before they bring it over to other regions, and that may explain why there's some delays, at least back in the day. Not so much now, it seems like things tend to release more simultaneously. However, if you look at these, a lot of these look almost exactly the same. In the case of these two. However, there's a lot of differences. There's differences that are minor, such as just the release code. And what I mean by the release code is each one of these has a different SLPM number, which is typically on the spine, and on the front or on the back. There's different places where you can find that number, but typically on every single one of them, it will be available on the spine. There can be minor differences in the case of this one. If you look, if you notice, there are these items here that don't appear on the other variants. Or in the case of these ones, these are more like your greatest hits re-releases. So there can also be much larger differences, and that be that the game itself is actually different. Now, I don't mean a big difference, not like you're going to see additional story elements or anything like that. We're not talking these days where you get DLC and, you know, other additional things. More so much as bug fixes. That's what a lot of these variants, the difference between them is. There's some other differences, as I'll show you as I go across each one of these, but I understand that looking at these at face value, they all kind of look exactly the same. So the first one we'll pick up is the standard release. This is the first release of the game. I mean, when I say nothing special about it, I don't mean the game, because I love this game, but there's nothing particularly special about it. It's just the first release. Its code is SLPM 86500, and it has a tilde and a 1. So this disc is 00, and the second disc is serialized as 01. So other than that, there's really nothing particularly special about this release. This is just your standard Dragon Quest VII. Oh, I forgot to show the back. That's the back. I'll show you some comparisons between these. This one really isn't anything special either. This is the same release as what I just showed you. It just happens to be sealed. Gives you an idea what they look like on the shelf. This is where things first start to get a little different. So if this one I actually had the OB card for, which is this little thing that comes on the spine in Japan when anything's new, you would notice something slightly different about this one right up front. And it would be a little bit more obvious than what you're going to see here. So on this one, you'll notice that obviously the SLPM code is completely different. It is not 00-01. It is 87352-3, which obviously denotes that the disc 1 is 2 and disc 2 is 3. But these things were added to tell you more about its features, right? Controller features, how many players, memory card blocks. you'll see that these are also printed on the manual. So if you do happen to get into collecting variants like I do, there are a lot of key items that you can pay attention to know the difference. There's nothing particularly special about this disc other than the SLPM code being different. The manual pretty much, if I remember correctly, looks exactly the same as the standard release. Oh no, there's a little bit of difference here. Looks like we got some warnings and a barcode and some additional logos. One thing you'll also notice is that I got this backwards. This is the next release. Oh wait, no, this is not the version. We'll get to this. This is a special one. I forgot. You'll notice that there's Square Enix and there's Enix. So Enix, or proper pronunciation is Enix, I've just always called them Enix, was the initial releaser before they bought out Square. So as a part of the merger, they renamed the company, and at some point they re-released the game. And that variant, if I can get this manual back in here properly. This variant, was meant for the PS1, meaning the small PlayStation 1. The slim model, I guess, if you would call it. But they called it PSONE 1. And this came with a OB card that actually denoted that. It said PS1 Books version. There are a few other games that have had PS1 Books releases, and typically there's nothing all that special about the PS1 versions, so much as they are a re-release, but they do on occasion have bug fixes. And I believe that this actually does have a bug fix. And we can see the difference between the standard release and this PS1 Books release is that the back does look quite a bit different. As I said, we'll get to this one later. So then there are two releases here, which I'm hoping you can notice the difference of. This one is actually the first of the two. The only way I can remember this is by looking at them. And this one has a different SLPM, which is obvious because it's a different release. I guess that's how Square Enix or Enix kept track of their releases, or just Sony in general, right? Because these are not specific to the company so much as specific to PlayStation. In any case, this is just effectively a greatest hits release. I believe it's identical to this for the most part. There is nothing that I know about this release that is special, other than the fact that it was a Platinum Hits release, which is the same as Greatest Hits in the States. And they came with this silver and black themed case, which I am also missing the OB card for this, but in the case of these, I believe it was a silver OB, much like, if I give me a second, I'll grab another Greatest Hits game. And you'll see that their Ultimate Hits, sorry, not Platinum Hits, their Ultimate Hits releases have that silver and black theme. So this goes back to that. In any case, this is basically just a copy paste of this with probably a new price when it released and a different SLPM code. The manual slightly different, or a lot different, on the back than the prior releases. It's just a bunch of text and it says Square Enix. Also, you'll notice that the discs started displaying Square Enix on them. This is where things get a little different. This is a re-release of the Ultimate Hits line. You'll see that the SLPM code is actually exactly the same, which is a little weird because you'll notice the difference here. Even though if you match it up to the front cover, it's SLPM 87378. And we'll look at the disc here. 87378. And then we look at the disc here, and you may notice a difference right up front. It still says 87378. But the big difference between these two is that this is the final bug fix release. This is apparently the ultimate best version of Dragon Quest VII on the PlayStation 1. And the easiest way to tell the difference here is they have a silver bottom. A little dusty there. Both of these discs come with a silver bottom. And these aren't bootlegs, these are official releases. They, at some point, I guess, stopped making, or Sony stopped providing and producing black bottom discs. And the only company that I'm aware of that used silver bottom discs and continued to produce games after Sony stopped producing the black bottom discs is Square Enix. And a little fun fact for you, even to this day, they still sell, I believe it's Final Fantasy Origins on the Square Enix store. You can buy it right now, and I think it's like $14.99, and it will have a silver bottom. It'll be the ugly green American greatest hits version, but it will have a silver disc because black discs are no longer produced. There's nothing different, it's all aesthetic. It was something that Sony did, I guess, to stand out. But yeah, these are still available. They still make them, I believe, or they at least still have them in stock with the silver bottoms. Now, going on to this one, the biggest notable difference here is that this is not even a release. While it does still have a code, in this case it is an SCPS. And if you notice, it does have the Enix logo, which means that it was prior to the merger releases. Oh, also this one I just noticed has the 0 rating on the top here instead of on the bottom where these other ones have it. In any case, this is not a game that was put on a shelf. This is actually not for sale. It is a promotion-only, fully playable game. I believe this was to be given out to reviewers in Japan and other Asia territories, at least the ones that did pick up items that were in Japanese, because while there are Asia releases of Dragon Quest games, they tend to be in Japanese. I'll show you here. This is a PlayStation Vita version of Dragon Quest Heroes 2. You can typically find the Asian releases have this in place of the Japanese CERO rating. This usually just means that it's being sold in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Malaysia, other areas in the Asia region, but are still sold in Japanese language. A lot of times you'll see that they'll have additional, like the manual on this one is in Chinese, or operation sheet, I don't know what the heck that means. But sometimes you'll see that it has subtitles in other languages. So this is just a full Japan release. I don't know why this is a thing and why they managed to sell these almost wholly in Japanese in other Asian territories. Maybe there's a larger population that understands Japanese there. I don't know. That's too worldly for me. In any case, I managed to get this from Taiwan. And while it is a Japanese release, I'm guessing it made its way over to Taiwan for review purposes. But one of the big things that came with this is since this came out prior to the standard release and people hadn't played it, they provided, I don't know if you got an OB card on this for whatever reason, but I'll show you this. This is the biggest difference, is that they provided a how to play fold out, I won't call it a map, but instruction sheet. That tells you all about the controller and what it does. In English, as well as. So, look at that. You can learn how to play Dragon Quest VII. Now, as far as I know, this is exclusive to this promotional release and did not end up on any other releases, at least not in Japan. I haven't busted this one open to find out if it came with it, but as far as I know, this one was 100% complete, and all it came with was the OB spine card, manual, and the game. It did not include any type of, I've never been able to find that sheet anywhere else. But there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different variants. The sealed one doesn't really count. In Japan, you have a standard release. You have a, what I believe is a bug fix, also re-released under the Square Enix banner. And then you have the, I can't remember, I've switched these up now. Okay. You have the greatest hits re-release of this, and then the final bug fix on the silver disc. I hope this was informative to you, and that's all I got. Good day.